Well, he is alive, everybody. He is risen from the dead. Today we celebrate that our God has conquered the grave. And this is not just a New Hills thing. This weekend we are joining over 2 billion people who are lifting up the name of Jesus. So happy Easter, everybody. Come on. This is a great day. And if we have not had a chance to meet yet, my name is Brian, the pastor here at New Hills, and I just want to say we are so honored that you would come and spend your Easter with us. And I want to say, especially if you're new here, it might be the first time you have ever stepped foot in this building. We are just so glad to have you joining us. Come on, church, can we welcome everybody in this place right now? Well, guys, we're going to have some fun today, okay? Today's a fun day. We're going to celebrate. It was just about 2 months ago. I'm at the Denver airport getting ready to jump on a flight, and I'm getting into the TSA pre-check line. And let me just tell you, for anybody who doesn't have TSA pre-check, it is worth that fee to not have to take your clothes off in security, okay? It's worth it. Just trust me on that. But as I'm getting into the TSA pre-check line, I see him, the actual guy, standing right there in front of me. No, the same guy who has a record 5 MVPs. The same guy who has 7 All-Pro selections. This guy threw 55 touchdown passes in a single season. This guy's got 14 4,000-plus seasons. This guy earned over $250 million in his playing career. He's been on SNL 4 times. This guy has 2 Super Bowl titles. Some of you guys already guessed it. That's right. I saw in the TSA pre-check line Peyton Manning just hanging out right there at the airport. And I promise you guys this. I normally do not swoon over the celebrities, like let them live their lives. But I kid you not, I just felt my phone coming out of my pocket and it just started taking a picture of this guy. And you could almost see out of the corner of his eye like, oh no, another grown man with a phone taking a picture. But I'm just gonna say, if you're gonna wear sunglasses inside, that is a clear sign you're doing a poor job of keeping a low profile. But Peyton and I, we go through security together. And then we go down the escalator together. We wait for the train together. And then we ride the train together. And so I have a very exciting announcement for everybody today. Joining us for Easter 2025. Come on, everybody. Were you guys not buying that at all? I saw some of your guys' faces. So some of the guys in the room, you look like a girl at a Taylor Swift concert. I saw your face. Now, why were some of you guys excited to see him? He's a 49-year-old middle-aged man with a little bit of a dad bod at this point. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Why was I excited to see him? I have never taken a picture of somebody at an airport in my entire life. Why do we get excited about seeing people like this? On one level, you just got to admit, Peyton Manning, there is something special about the guy. Okay, he's not just an everyday kind of guy. But there's even a second thing to this, because for a lot of us in here, you've seen that guy play on TV, you've seen highlight clips, you've seen photographs, but we all know it's one thing to just see somebody on a screen, but it is a whole other thing to have a real encounter with somebody. And actually, this is not just a celebrity thing. There's all sorts of encounters that are really special. I've probably got some people in the room who travel a decent amount for work. And for those of you guys who travel, you know after you're gone, maybe even for a couple weeks on that trip, when you get home to that wife or those kids or that family, it's just a different kind of greeting. Just hits a little different. For the grandparents in the room, you have those grandkids that are in another state on the other side of the country because your kids didn't love you enough to stay close to home. But when you see those grandkids for the first time in months, it's not really a hug, is it? It's more like a squeeze. You just squeeze them. You know what videos get me every single time? When you see those videos of parents who serve in the military, and then they come home after months and months of being deployed and they surprise their kids, that's not a hug, that is a squeeze. It's a whole different type of greeting. Those are the realest tears you will ever see in your life. Because every single person here knows It's one thing to have FaceTime, it's one thing to have a phone, but there is nothing like a real encounter. Now, today is Easter. A lot of people are doing a lot of things this weekend. So some people are going to church. Some people are going to be doing Easter egg hunts. You might even be seeing some family you don't normally see. Some of you guys might even eat Peeps today, which God bless you if you do. But Easter, really at its core, it's about an encounter. It's about one encounter. It's about the one encounter that nobody expected. The one encounter that nobody saw coming. Because if you rewind history just about 2,000 years, this person, Jesus, shows up on the scene. And the moment Jesus entered into the public spotlight, it became evident to everyone, this is not just an everyday guy. There's even a point in Jesus' travels where he stopped back in his hometown. He starts doing some incredible stuff, and look at the response of these people. Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers, they asked. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Where then did this man get all these things? There's another point in time, a crowd sees Jesus heal somebody. And they say, we have never seen anything like this. There were even some authorities. They were sent to arrest Jesus, and these guys decide not to. They go back to their superiors, and they give them this reason. No one has ever spoken the way this man does. There is even one day when Jesus gave sight to a blind guy. And so some people are investigating what happened. They're asking this blind guy, what in the world? And he's like, I can't even fully explain to you. I don't even know. But he says, one thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. People could not explain how Jesus was doing the things he was doing. And yet at the same time, they could not deny what they were seeing right before their eyes. And they were actually experiencing a tension. It's the same tension that you and I experience even today. You can call this the tension between the unexplainable and the undeniable. There's actually a guy. His name is Robert Adair. Now, he has a PhD in, get this, nuclear physics. And this guy spent years as the chair of the physics department at Yale. So stop right here. This is one of the smartest guys on planet Earth. Okay, this is what you call a super nerd. And so Dr. Adair, he actually spent some of his life's work studying the science of hitting a Major League Baseball. He's got a whole book about it. It's called The Physics of Baseball. And through his studies and his research, he actually came to this very conclusion. Hitting a 90-mile-per-hour fastball is clearly impossible. Now, Dr. Adair actually explains the science in his book. He talks about how the moment the ball leaves the pitcher's hand, there is about 400 milliseconds before that ball will hit the catcher's mitt. Now, just to get an idea of how fast it is, if you just blink your eyes right now, it's about the speed of a blink of your eyes. Now, he goes on to say it takes about 200 milliseconds for the batter to catch the ball with his eyes and send a signal to his brain to swing. It takes another 100 milliseconds for the batter to decide where to swing. And then it takes another 150 milliseconds for the batter to perform the actual swing. So for all my math nerds in the room, you already know. We are at 450 milliseconds, which means the ball is already well in the catcher's mitt before this batter has any chance of hitting it. So clearly, Dr. Adair is right when he says hitting a 90-mile-per-hour fastball is clearly impossible. It's science. Why don't you look convinced? Why don't you guys look like you're sold on this thing? Because you have seen with your own eyes somebody hit a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. You've been to a baseball game. You can watch guys hit 100-mile-per-hour fastballs in a typical week. For goodness sakes, the Colorado Rockies, the worst team in Major League Baseball, can hit a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. You guys need to be praying for our sports teams a lot more than you are. If I asked most of us in this room to explain where Dr. Dare is wrong in his science, you wouldn't be able to explain it. But we all are smart enough to not let the unexplainable disprove the undeniable. I actually cannot explain to you guys how my phone works. I know there's satellites and different technology here, but I can't really explain it to you. Here's something I cannot deny. I was able to text a friend in Taiwan just the other day, and they were able to text me right back. I can't explain to you guys how Jokic has the body of a middle-aged dad, and yet he is still one of the best basketball players on earth. It's undeniable. We operate this way in every single area of our lives, except when it comes to faith. We are comfortable with the unexplainable until it comes to God. How do you explain Jesus? Let's do a hypothetical scenario right now. You're doing a day out in Boulder. It's a beautiful sunny day. You're going to walk Pearl Street. You're going to grab some food, see some sights. It's just going to be an awesome day. And somebody comes up to you. Not a weird Boulder person, just like a normal person comes up to you. And they say, hey, can I just ask you a question? How do you explain Jesus Christ? How do you explain this first century carpenter who spent most of his life in obscurity, only 3 years with any public attention, and never wrote a book, never led an army, never led a nation, never got married, never had kids, and then died as a criminal at the age of 33. And yet here we are, 2,000 years later, talking about this guy. 2 billion people are talking about this guy this weekend. Many of them worship him as God. You got to admit, that's pretty crazy. How do you explain Jesus? When people first encountered Jesus, they could not explain what they were seeing. Sick people were healed. Blind people were seeing. Paralyzed people were walking. The weather patterns were interrupted by his very words. And yet, even though they could not explain it, they could not deny it. And people tried to come up with explanations. You can see some of the things people tried to come up with. One says there was a lot of arguing about him among the crowds. Some argued he's a good man. But others said he's nothing but a fraud who deceives the people. Somebody else chimed in. They said he gets his power from Satan. There's got to be some dark forces at work, some voodoo, witchcraft kind of stuff. I don't even know. Even some other rumors going around where, look at him. He eats too much and drinks too much. He's nothing but a frat boy. This guy just likes to party. Everyone had their own explanations. But then there was a day when Jesus actually sat down with his disciples. And he said, hey guys, I know there's a little bit of a rumor mill going on right now. We got a gossip train. What's the word right now? What are people saying about me? And so some of his guys start speaking up. They're like, well, man, some people think you're some sort of prophet or something. Other people think you have political motivations. But there's one thing everybody agrees on. You are not just an everyday guy. And then Jesus, he leans in. And he's got a question. But what about you? Who do you say I am? What is your explanation? And Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus responds, bullseye, Peter. You nailed it. That actually is the only correct response. Now, just because someone says something about themselves does not make it true. There's actually a guy named Charles Ponzi. And he started an investment company some years ago. And he promised his investors 50 to 100% returns in a very short period of time. At his peak, he was earning, get this, as much as $3.5 million a day. Tens of thousands of people were pouring their life savings into this guy's investment vehicles. There was just one tiny little itsy bitsy problem. The whole thing was a giant scam. And the house of cards came crashing down very quickly, and Charles found himself in prison, divorced, completely destitute. He died with only $75 to his name. Right before he died, his last recorded words were this: "I gave the people the best show that was ever staged." And this man is actually where we get our term Ponzi scheme from. There's a very clear explanation for Charles, isn't there? He was a fraud. He was not who he said he was. Now, Jesus said he was the Messiah, the Son of the living God. He called himself the light of the world, the Savior of the world. These were extravagant claims of being a divine figure. But then, not totally unlike Charles, Jesus' life took a dramatic turn. And just after a couple years of his travels, Jesus found himself with a death sentence. Death by crucifixion. This was capital punishment reserved for only the worst criminals, the biggest enemies of the state. This was the most horrific and humiliating way to die in the ancient world. And Jesus found himself brutally tortured, getting nails driven and hammered through his hands and feet to these boards of wood. And then he was propped up before the world until he breathed his last breath. And then he was placed in a tomb. How do you explain Jesus? Just a good man? Not who he said he was? Was he deceiving people? Was he a fraud? Sometimes there's more to the story than you first see. Just a few years ago, there was an earthquake in China, a more rural region, and there was a man living right in this area. His name was Li Yuanglong. He was a 38-year-old farmer right in that area. And the moment the earthquake hit, he was at home. And after the impact, he was totally fine, but he didn't even wait to put his shoes on. He started sprinting towards the town in this area. And he was sprinting towards the school that was there. It just so happened to be the same school that his 10-year-old daughter attended. And when he finally got to the school, he came upon his worst nightmare. A large portion of the school had collapsed. So Lee, he started desperately digging through the rubble as fast as he possibly could. And then he heard it, a little cry. And he knew immediately whose it was. And so he became even more frantic. He started ripping through the rubble so frantically, actually, that he got severe wounds on his legs and arms. He even had a piece of debris fall down and crush his leg, but it did not stop him because he finally dug in and found his daughter. But there was a little problem. There was a large beam that had fallen down, and it had her pinned down to the ground. She couldn't get out. And so Lee was trying to lift this beam, but it was too heavy. He could not get it to budge. So in a final moment of absolute desperation, this man crawled down and he put the beam on his back. And he pushed up with all the strength he could possibly muster. And his daughter was just able to slip out to her safety. But the moment she got out, another part of the building caved in. And the beam collapsed right on Lee. And he died. Every single person here knows that that man did exactly the right thing. Because every single person here even intuitively understands that kind of love. It's a love that will endure any hardship. It's a love that will make any sacrifice. It's a love that will pay any price. And the love of this father compelled him to stop at nothing to save his daughter, even if it came at the cost of his own life. God made this world. He made this universe. And he made it for life and vitality and human flourishing and love and goodness and peace. That was the original intent and design of God. But we broke it. We created a cosmic earthquake through our own sin, and the damage has been catastrophic. We all see it. There is violence, there is evil and hate. You see corruption everywhere, death and loneliness, poverty and despair. And in the same way, our sin impacts our relationships with family and friends and people we care about. You see it happen. It creates distance. There's separation. There's pain and damage in our own relationships. The same thing has happened in our relationship with God. There's distance there. There's not full access. And as hard as we try to clean up the mess and put it all back together, whether it be politics or technology or education or even keto diets, we cannot put it all back together. We just can't seem to clean up the whole mess. The moment that earthquake hit, God came running. There's actually a verse, some of you guys may recognize it, John 3:16. For God so loved the world. Now, when John's talking about the world here, he's talking about people. He's talking about humanity. Now, that is a massive concept to grasp. Billions and billions of people, so it can actually help to focus in a little bit. Because if it says that God loved the whole world, you know what this also means? For God so loved you. God knows you. He cares about your life. God is invested in you. How much does God love you? Well, John actually tells us that he gave his one and only son. God knew there was only one person who could handle the weight of the sin of the world and put it on his back. And it was Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of the living God, the light of the world. God in the flesh came running into this world so he could bear the weight. And this is what Paul says in the New Testament. You were spiritually dead because of your sins. You were trapped in that debris. There was no hope. You were not getting out yourself. But there are two very good words right after this. But God. What did God do? He gave you new life with Christ. He forgave all our sins. He canceled the record of the charges against us and took it away by nailing it to the cross, everybody. Jesus was pinned down so you could go free. Jesus died so you could live. And I know some of us in here, today you're just thinking, oh man, church, that is not my scene. Those are not my people. This is not something I do. I'll push through for an hour, and that's it. And some of you guys are even thinking, man, even if there was a God, there's no way he would even care about my life. Man, there's way too much mess to clean up. Don't you understand? God came running for you while you were still in your mess. And the love of God compelled him to stop at nothing to save you, even at the cost of his own life. sometimes there is more to the story than you first see. Now, that Sunday, after Jesus died, he had a friend who went to visit the tomb. Her name was Mary. Now, she had no expectations. She just wanted to pay her respects to someone she really cared about. But when she finally got to the tomb, she noticed that it looked like it had been tampered with. And so she looks in, and the body's not even there. So now she is crying. This lady is inconsolable, because it's bad enough that her friend is dead, but now some people clearly have come in and stolen stuff, even stolen the whole body. And it tells us she turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. Which, of course, she didn't recognize him, because dead people don't come back to life. And in the same way, I wasn't expecting to see Peyton at the airport, and some kid is not expecting to see their dad after 9 months. Mary definitely was not expecting to see the dead guy walking around. But then she recognizes him. And she goes in for the biggest squeeze of her life, everybody, because she could not explain it, but she could not deny Jesus is alive. He is risen from the dead. This is the one encounter nobody expected. This is the one encounter that nobody saw coming. This is the one encounter that changes everything. It tells us Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news. I have seen the Lord. Some other women have the same encounter, and they tell these guys. But look what happens. They did not believe the women because it sounded like nonsense, which of course they didn't believe them, because it was nonsense. How do you possibly explain to someone that a dead person is alive? But even though it was unexplainable for everyone else, it was undeniable for Mary. And see, even after Mary's encounter, some other people started having their own encounters. Jesus, he shows up to some of his other followers and they say, "We have seen the Lord." They are absolutely blown away. Did not see it coming. Thomas, the guy in the group, total skeptic. He was like, absolutely not. He didn't rise from the dead, because that doesn't happen. But then he has his own encounter and he says, "My Lord and my God." He is shocked out of his mind. Even John sees Jesus at one point. He says, "It is the Lord. The guy who was dead is alive." And see, once this started happening and more people had encounters, they started putting more pieces of the story together. And finally, even Peter fully understood how this all worked. And he would write in one of his letters, "By raising Jesus from the dead, he has given us new life." Do you see what Peter's saying? Jesus didn't just die for you. He rose from the dead for you. And now, through the new life of his resurrection, he is offering you new life. What can you expect when you have an encounter with Jesus? What can you expect to happen in your life? I know everybody has their own experiences and their own stories. I can only speak to mine. You know, I spent some years of my life getting exposed to church services. I would even pray at different points. And I just thought, that's a nice thing you do. It's the religious duty. My family would go to church on Easter, because that's just kind of the box you would check. And I'll be honest with you guys, through those years, I never had a real encounter. For whatever reason, it just didn't click for me. It just didn't happen. But then I remember one particular season of my life where I cannot explain it. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't see a vision. The heavens did not part, but I cannot deny I had a real, undeniable encounter with Jesus Christ. And what I also cannot deny is from that moment, my life started to radically change. It was like I had a new life. I didn't know that there was this hope and joy that was even possible. I didn't know that there was this love from God that I could experience. I started to see victory and progress in different areas of my life, overcoming just destructive patterns and lifestyle habits. My desires started to change. Even my relationships totally shifted. My marriage has been totally transformed. My relationship with my kids is so much better. And I can't even fully explain it to you. All I can tell you is it is the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. Our team's going to play a song right now. And I really want it to be an opportunity for you. I want it to be an opportunity for you to ask yourself this question. Have you had a real, undeniable encounter with Jesus? And if not, do you want to?